G'day guys, John here, Chief Instructor with FPV Australia. Welcome back. Today we're really excited to announce the first of a bunch of new training programs we've got running, a new series that we're calling Best Practice Training. Industry best practice, if you like. And these were all supposed to sort of launch a bit later in the year along with our virtual classroom because they're all centered around that. But with the current restrictions of COVID and whatever else, we've fast-tracked that to now. And I'm excited to launch the first one today. It is our Chief Remote Pilot Compliance Training. What is that? It's basically aimed directly at the Chief Remote Pilot to ensure that he or she remains compliant with the regulations, compliant with the REOC, and all the dark corners and bits and pieces of the REOC that goes with it. As you may or may not know, the 10th of April, we should have seen the Manual of Standards take effect, just about all of it, but unfortunately, due to the current situation of COVID, it's been pushed back till the 10th of October. So what better time than to ensure that you are lining yourself up to remain compliant with everything that's new that's come along with the Manual of Standards, and maybe some other stuff that's come along since you were trained. Maybe you were trained 3 or 4 years ago in some of our first courses or other training schools, and a lot has changed along the way. And so this training is designed to fill a whole bunch of those knowledge gaps that you may have to ensure you remain compliant. What do I mean by that? The training goes through things like the REOC structure, who's responsible for what, and what are the reporting lines of the REOC. Who reports to who and who's responsible for all of that stuff. The roles and responsibilities within the REOC itself. If you've got chief pilot and a bunch of pilots underneath the chief, who's responsible for doing what? Pilot inductions, for example, will come into play. If you're a chief remote pilot and you've got pilots flying underneath you, you have to have inducted them into the REOC. And I don't mean inductions as in, there's the exits and the toilets are over there and an emergency exit there. It's inductions into the REOC of flying the drones. And there are process and procedures that need to be done before one of your pilots can go fly. And then there are ongoing requirements. So the training will walk through that. Night flight requirements, for example. Even if you're the only pilot on the REOC and you're a chief pilot, there are requirements that you have to fulfill before you can fly at night, and then every time you do a job at night, there are requirements. You simply, as a chief pilot, can't just rock up to a site in the dark, pop the locks on your drone case and go fly. So we'll fill you in with all the gaps with that. Understanding the CASA regulatory framework and where it all sits and how to locate it, and what's a CASA and what's an advisory circular and what's the AIP and all that stuff. We'll go through all of that. Understanding those regulations. How does the Manual of Standards and the regulations work together? It's a complex environment, so I want to try and clear all of that mud up for you. Publications like URSA and AIP and PRD, and what does all that mean? Maybe it's been a while since you were trained, or you were trained on a training course that didn't quite cover it all in detail. That's where this training program will come in. The airspace and the differences and the new Manual of Standards bringing in some changes to some of that airspace. Like for instance, there's new rules around controlled aerodromes. There's new rules around non-controlled aerodromes that are in the Manual of Standards now backing up regulation. There's tethered operations, for example, that have come into play now, and what we can do with that. EV loss operations. There's a whole bunch of stuff, job safety assessments and risk assessments and all that stuff that goes with it. And there's all these responsibilities that the chief pilot must be doing in order to remain compliant with the REOC. The last thing you want to do is have an audit done where you haven't been doing things properly. That comes into play with people like WorkCover and WorkSafe and all those organisations that are going to turn up if something horrible goes wrong, and you want to be sure that you are dotting your I's and crossing your T's. Further to that, AVCRM. If you're not familiar with this product, I've been singing the praises of AVCRM, and a big shout out to the guys at AVCRM. And for transparency, I have a commercial arrangement with AVCRM. I resell their product. And I do it not because it puts $1 in my pocket, I do it because it's damn good at what it does, and it's getting better. They have been running in parallel with the Manual of Standards, making all the changes they need to their back end to ensure that it makes us as chief pilots, our jobs really easy, I guess, to fill in all the dots to maintain compliance with regulation and the REOC. So AVCRM is going to come into this training a fair bit, and then as part of this training, if you are a subscriber to AVCRM or you come on board as a new subscriber to AVCRM, talking with the guys, they will certainly help you and put you through some training and a showcase to get you rolling, because it is rather complex moving forward now. There are maintenance requirements now under the new Manual of Standards. Depending on the weight of the aircraft, they differ. You've got the RPAS technical log now that needs to exist. There are absolute requirements for pilot logs and time in service logs and all that sort of stuff. And AVCRM takes care of that for you, as well as a whole bunch of new features coming into when you plan a job for heights and AGL limits and elevations and altitudes. Look, I can't sing the praises of AVCRM enough. It's a brilliant piece of software. So all of that gets wrapped up in this one-day training. It's only one day. However, if you get to the end of this session and you still think, you know what, I'm still want to fill in some gaps here, you're welcome to come back at no extra charge. We'll plug you into another session. The numbers are going to be kept low in our virtual classroom. This all runs through our virtual classroom, and we're going to keep the numbers low. For the reason being, we want enough time for open discussions so that we can answer any questions, or I can answer, because it's all with me, by the way. I can answer any questions you may have that might not have been covered in the training for your particular REOC. So things about, how can we operate, where can we operate, those sorts of things might come up. Maybe you've got a specific location and you're not sure whether it breaches regulation or not. That's when it's time for that to get raised. Our virtual classroom is awesome. The technology we use is brilliant. We can play videos. You'll see my virtual whiteboard if we need it. We can share things around the room, and it's just like being there. It is awesome. It's not a webinar where you just sit and listen. It's a fully interactive classroom, and all of these sessions are done with me. It's almost one-on-one time, I guess, with me in a very small classroom environment. Anyway, I've babbled on enough. If you want more information, it's on the website. Jump on fpvaustralia.com.au and go to the training section there, training courses, and you'll see it at the top. If you've got questions, you can email us, as always, training@fpvaustralia.com.au. I'll also put a link to the actual page with the information in the description here of the video. In the comments section, the description section. If you've got any comments and you want to, you can comment on the video. You can give us a call if you like. The 1300 number that I can never remember is down there, 1300 something or other. Get on the phone and give us a call, or you can email me directly if you like, john@fpvaustralia.com.au. This little training package is designed to be industry best practice to keep you as a chief remote pilot doing your job properly and responsibly, and making sure you remaining compliant, because at the end of the day, that's the game we play. Anyway, I hope this video has been informative to you. As I always say, if you're flying a drone today, tomorrow, next week, or next month, please do so safely and responsibly. We need safe skies for everybody. Enjoy.